An evaluation of Martin Luther's theology based on reason and evidence. Truth is determined by logical consistency and correspondence with evidence, not by the reputation of who proposes an idea. Martin Luther was a sloppy thinker and second-rate theologian. Like John Calvin, his God was a Calvinist too. Few people are aware that Martin Luther wrote the 97 Theses before he wrote his famous 95 Theses. These were disputations against other theologians, describing the prophets' views on free will, predestination, election, and so on. Let's examine 4 theses on free will to examine the quality of Luther's thinking, since these ideas are foundational to his theology. If his thinking is found to be irrational, contradictory, and illogical, then his conclusions, and thus the credibility of his theology and its influence, is questionable. Any belief system, including Protestant doctrine, must meet standards of logical consistency and rational validity. Authority does not constitute truth. Truth that demonstrates its validity, that has been tested and found to be sound, constitutes authority. Here are Theses 7 to 10 from what was eventually named his disputation against scholastic theology. 7. As a matter of fact, without the grace of God, the will produces an act that is perverse and evil. 8. It does not, however, follow that the will is by nature evil, that is, essentially evil, as the Manichaeans maintain. 9. It is nevertheless innately and inevitably evil and corrupt. 10. One must concede that the will is not free to strive toward whatever is declared good. Statement 7 contradicts itself in Statement 8. It says the will produces evil acts without God's grace, but then says the will is not essentially evil. Which is it? The will cannot be both the direct cause of evil and not evil in itself. Statement 8 directly contradicts Statement 9. 8 says the will is not essentially evil, while 9 says it is inevitably evil and corrupt. These cannot both be true. Statement 9 is an absolute claim that is contradicted by common experience. If the will were utterly incapable of good, virtue would be impossible and morality would be meaningless. This is clearly false. The will has the capacity for both good and evil. Statement 10 also contradicts common experience. Our will is clearly free to choose between good and evil acts. If it were not, we could not be morally responsible for our choices and actions. Free will is a self-evident truth. These statements contain irreconcilable contradictions and logical inconsistencies. The will cannot be the direct cause of evil acts and not evil in itself. It cannot be inevitably evil and free to choose good. And it cannot be utterly incapable of good while also the basis for morality and virtue. While man struggles with sin, the will is free, and with God's grace we can overcome evil and choose righteousness. Martin Luther was a sloppy thinker. Few realize that he rejected libertarian free will, just as did John Calvin, though their reasoning may differ. If core ideas contradict reason and evidence, they cannot reflect truth. The notions that the will is utterly depraved and incapable of good, or that man has no free choice in moral acts, defy common experience and our God-given faculty of reason. They make nonsense of morality, virtue, and justice. A theology that denies free will and moral choice paints a dark view of human nature that portrays man as essentially evil and God as the direct cause of sin, a paradox that makes God the author of evil. We become unable to choose righteousness. While we have a fallen nature, God gave us the freedom to follow conscience and overcome temptation. If a theology relies on ideas that contradict themselves or cannot be rationally defended, it is reasonable to suspect its validity. This is the theology of both Martin Luther and John Calvin. Luther's radical theology was not merely a reaction to indulgences, but something he sought to promote for its own sake. His extreme positions on free will, the nature of God, and the utterly depraved state of man are well beyond an objection to indulgences alone. Luther appears to have seized on the abuse of indulgences as an opportunity and pretext to advance his own pre-existing theology. His theology, with its denial of free choice, God as the author of sin, and man's incapacity for good was an end in itself. Indulgences were a convenient excuse, not the cause. Luther's position is aimed at instituting a new theology. If anything is clear in the writings and method of many Protestant theologians, is they were trained in scholastic theology, and some willfully and intentionally broke with that method. Consequently, we can make the following claim: It is incorrect to claim that Luther and Protestantism's problem is they didn't read or understand Aquinas or scholastic theology. They were clearly trained in the method and broke with it for theological, philosophical, and exegetically reasons. From williamroach.org. This article is available on the Ko-fi page linked in the description. If you like this concise content by Lloyd de Jong, please subscribe on Ko-fi for more, and support more of this work there. Here on YouTube, please like the content with the thumbs up, share it, and subscribe to the channel.